Steve, are you going to record?
Yes. Yes, so the Zoom is being recorded, but I'll stop recording, and I won't use any of that preliminary stuff, okay? But I'm also recording on my phone right here. So,
Awesome.
so the last two recordings are also on YouTube, and I'm getting them produced better so they have the integrated slides. But the quick version is just whatever comes off my phone from the in-person recording, okay? But I have both those up, and they should be accessible on the YouTube, not on the YouTube, on the WhatsApp channel. And furthermore, well, it's really a link to a playlist, so you'll see all the devotionals and the presentations on the WhatsApp. Now, WhatsApp doesn't show the new people what came before it. So I'm also working on an online a learning management platform that's going to have all the resources, okay, that came before. Obviously, they don't have the interaction, the after we turn off the recordings, the discussion, and so forth. But those two, the two devotionals from before are available. And if you would like to, well, as well as the presentations and so forth. So if you don't see them on the WhatsApp, then just ping me for them and I'll make sure that you get them. Okay? So everybody understands the rules. So if you engage in discussion during this devotional segment, then you might be part of the online recording, okay? So you need to be okay with that. But then we turn off all the recordings, and then we can be completely frank, and you don't need to worry about being part of the Twitterverse or whatever it is. Okay. So we who remembers what our first lesson, what our first devotional was? Does anyone remember?
Oh, wait, my notes do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
It's okay. We want to grow in our marriage. Where do we start? And the outcome of that was 3 things that you're working on in your marriage. Each one of you. So they may be 3 shared things. They may be 3 individual things, but hopefully they're things that you talked about, and your spouse knows, okay, you're working on that and I'm working on this. And the whole point is not that that's the only way that we grow. Okay, we grow as we draw near to God. We grow in lots of ways. We grow because of the situations that God serves up for us. And if we respond to them in a Christ-like way, we're growing. And we didn't enumerate it. We didn't, we don't pray about it all the time, but we're growing. But it also helps just to know, what is it we're working on? And so the first lesson was, where do we start and what am I working on? So if hopefully you all remember the 3 things that you're working on, because hopefully you're working on them. Okay, for me, I had to actually dig to find out, what was that second one? Yeah. Okay, but what I'm working on in our marriage, number 1, and I'm just doing this to refresh everyone's memory what we're doing here, right? Right, I'm working on bringing fun into the marriage. Now, the last 2 weeks we've been like sick, flat on our backs.
Yeah, not fun.
It has not been easy to do the old fun thing. Okay, but fun in our marriage. The next one was presence, and I've been working on this even though I couldn't remember what the second word was, and that is that I had gotten into a habit of plugging in and listening to YouTube videos while I'm cruising around the house, and Susan would be talking to me, and I'd be like, oh, what? And when that was creeping into the evenings, it wasn't a good dynamic. It was a bad habit that we had gotten into. Okay, she was listening to stuff, I was listening to stuff, and we weren't connecting. So it was just a bad habit we got into. And I said, No more of that. When Susan and I are in the same room, I'm not going to have a headset on or anything like that. We also set boundaries for screen time in the morning, screen time in the evening, etc. So anyway, that second one that I'm working on is just being present. Being present. When we're in the same room together, she can say something and I can hear it because I'm present. We're present together. And the third thing was priorities. Okay, I won't go into detail, but anyway, so the point is I identified 3 things that were meaningful to me and we talked about them. She also identified some things. We're not going to go around, although it is a good thing. I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear from you on the WhatsApp chat. Hey, these are the 3 things I'm working on, and I'm still working on them, and we have this progress. Okay, please. Now, if you'd prefer not to share it with the entire, 18 people on the WhatsApp thread, then you can share it with Susan and me on our 4-way chat.
Right.
Okay, so each of us have a 4-way chat that you can please do that. So that was week 1. Where do we start? It's important that you dig in. And oh, by the way, you can listen to the devotional. It was like, how do we find out where to start? We had lots of things we talked about in terms of how to decide on what are you working on, how to identify those things. Okay, session 2. Does anyone happen to remember or have their notes? So what's that?
It's communication.
Yes, positive communication and recovery if that communication goes south. Okay, because positive communication sometimes needs a little bit of recovery. So the outcome of that was hopefully that everybody was thinking, okay, what are my how do I cultivate and improve my daily communication habits and our weekly communication habits, and then our as needed communication habits. Okay, so those are the big 3 things is to work on cultivating a set of habits for really good positive communication. And there was a whole devotional on that. Today, the title is Thinking About and Sharing Our Ideals of Friendship in Marriage. Because if you remember, we talked about and we continue to talk about the marriage pyramid. Okay? Now, the foundation of the marriage pyramid, okay, the foundation beneath the foundation is what?
Friendship.
The foundation beneath the foundation is being great disciples together. Okay? But when we talk about the marriage pyramid, we're usually talking about the 3-layer version because, frankly, the foundation behind the foundation in anything in life is being great disciples. Loving God, loving Jesus is the foundation beneath every foundation. But here in the marriage pyramid, we're talking about being great friends. Now, we're going to come back to all these words on the right, and because what I really want from you guys is interaction and feedback in between. Okay, I would love to know that Kyle is working on this and succeeding in that or wrestling with that. I would love to know that Curtis or Dante or Marie, that I would love to know that you guys are working on the things that we're talking about during the week. That's what makes this group meaningful, is that if you take it home and work on it, and it makes it meaningful to us if we're able to hear feedback, if we're able to communicate about it. And then, oh, by the way, we're able to incorporate into the next time things that were actually meaningful to you, rather than just sort of showing up and saying, what's Steve got for us today? Okay? But in light of, with a lack of such feedback, what I just think of is, well, what are Susan and I working on? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's not bad stuff. You're going to get good stuff, even if you don't give us feedback. But I'm just telling you that we're trying to create a culture where this is a vibrant part of people's week, right? That in between the sessions, that people are working on it, they're finding value in it, they're growing, they're excited to share about it, they're eager to get advice about what maybe didn't go perfect, and so anyway, that was the second session. Oh, and now we're on the third session, which is friendship. So we're into this friendship. Now, first of all, well, we'll come back to the slide at the end. It asked for, hands about what are people really interested in, like for next session. But let's talk about being great friends. So I'm going to start with a question. Okay, this is a real question, not rhetorical. Right? Describe, if you would, your ideal, realistic friendship with your spouse. Someone, if you'd like to. And if you want to pass, I'll just carry on. But I'm just giving you a chance to engage you. If you would, describe your ideal friendship with your spouse. Okay, the friendship component. Yeah, cut.
I would say my desire would be fun, loving, sporadic, but also intimate in terms of the friendship, and goofy. I want to have a good time as friends.
And I'm thinking by sporadic, you meant spontaneous.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Not like sporadic, like we don't want too much friendship.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, awesome. Anyone else want to add anything to that? What comes to your mind? Like, you're thinking down deep, what do I want with my spouse in terms of an incredible friendship? Yes, we'll keep it.
Yeah, I guess some things that come to mind is being able to share things that we enjoy on a personal level, but with each other. So like, let's say Sherry enjoys making art, like being able to do that together. Or if I like going out and, being outside or doing like activities, like we're being able to do that together, but also doing it on a more consistent basis. Like, because, once the kids come, it can be hard to be spontaneous and all those things that you want. So finding the proper balance, but I think like sharing things that we enjoy just doing as individuals, but doing it together as partners on a more consistent basis.
And that takes a little bit of planning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of work. Like, it's one thing to say, I'm working on fun in our relationship. But it's like, so what are we going to do that's fun? Besides just the fact that we like each other. Right? It takes some planning. Takes some work.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to, you got more, yes, Marie.
Yes, feeling at home like, hey, I'm struggling with this. This is my friend. I can share this. Or if I'm having a hard day, I can share it without feeling like, oh, I need to keep a little bit of it away because this is too much.
Right.
Handled.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead, Susan.
I was thinking, a friend, just a friend in general, he wants someone that you could call on when you need help. And so being able to do that, like, I was supposed to pick up someone on the airport on Tuesday night, and I found out that she changed her plane to last night. And and then we went to take her to her car, and her car was dead, and so we didn't get home till like 12:30, and Steve was helping me with it the whole time because I thought, anyway, it was nice to, and he wasn't begrudging or making me feel bad or, anything, and I appreciated that. Yeah.
And I might say that Susan was a little bit on the point of tears with regard to how this responsibility had changed on her.
Yeah.
And
I kept thinking, no good deed goes unpunished.
and so I just thought, you know, I just and I actually had a lot of work to do,
Yeah.
but I just set it aside. I said I just want to go be with my wife, you know, and we'll just do this together. Now that wasn't what you'd call fun,
Yeah.
okay? But it was like, oh, my honey's here with me,
Yeah.
you know, during something that would otherwise be very challenging for me,
Right.
and which I might be regretting
Right.
having volunteered for it.
Right.
So let's talk about friendship and marriage. Here are just some questions, right? When did you feel your friendship was the strongest? So these are now a little rhetorical, okay? But when did you feel like your friendship was the strongest? And the objective of this is really the objective of this devotional and this session today is to sort of stir within you a vision that our friendship could be so amazing in the sense that it could last and it could grow. And oh, by the way, most people know, if they've been married a little bit, that relationships can get stale or flat. And they can actually get downright negative. And they can turn into a chore. And we don't want that. We don't want that for anyone here. And you don't want that. So, you know, everybody here is making it a priority, right, in accordance with the marriage pyramid, to be great friends and to grow in their friendship with one another, to pay attention to that their whole married lives long. So when did you feel your friendship was the strongest? That's just a good conversation item for y'all to have. And in fact, that question is going to be on the final slide, you know, the homework discussion. Okay? When did you feel your friendship was the strongest? What are friendship killers? Does anyone have a thought about what are the kind of things which can, you know, kill a friendship or hurt it?
So I think there are things that support and encourage the continuation of the friendship. If you stop doing those things, then that becomes a friendship killer. Like
Okay.
if you just fall off track or you become inconsistent, that could harm.
So neglect.
Yeah,
Neglect is a friendship killer because it just it meanders off track.
Yeah.
Okay?
I was thinking not showing up, which kind of goes with neglect. Like, yeah.
Okay? Yep. So,
It looks like they have their hand up.
oh yes, please. And by the way, just unmute and shout out because I may not see the little hand up.
Okay. Yeah, I remember we were in a group in Dallas with the elders, and the elders actually shared one thing that I think that the gentleman did, and he did it for years. It was something with a spoon and a cereal bowl, some kind of breakfast bowl, some noise or something that annoyed the wife, and she would tell him, but it took like years and years and years for the guy to finally realize, like, hey, this actually annoys my wife. And when he finally realized it, he did something about it, right? But I guess if we would have continued doing that, that would have, even something as small as that, right? My wife says this a lot, and it's not the big things that hurt so much as the continual little drip drops, the annoying things that continue on, the leaky faucets that are not fixed, that can ruin something.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
Thank you. And in fact, that reminds me of the pair of books that went with United Marriage, the course, and Marriage Dynamics before it. And one book was His Needs, Her Needs, and a companion book was Love Busters. And one of the Love Busters is Annoying Habits. And this is like, you can do all kinds of good things to build up your marriage, But if one or more of these love busters are going on, and annoying habits is one of them, then it can be like a leak in the bottom of your bag of grain, or your love bag.
Right.
Okay, as the good counselor liked to say. Okay, so friendship killers. There are lots of friendship killers that are love busters, right? You could go back to the first episode and see our quick overview. I'm not sure we got into love busters actually, but anyway, we can talk about that at some point. But then, how do you feel at home with your spouse? Okay, there are times where people get into the situation in their marriage where they don't really want to go home. Or going home doesn't feel that great. They're not anticipating it. They're not looking forward to it. There might be unresolved issues at home. And it might be kind of, I don't know, a little prickly. And we don't want that. How do you feel at home? How do you feel at home with your spouse? And so one of the things we want to do is we want to be able to have it where each of us feels like, our friendship, and I'm not talking about the honeymoon, I'm talking about our friendship is the strongest it's ever been. And it's growing. We're working on it. We love being together. You know what? We've learned a lot about the friendship killers. We've eliminated them. It's not just annoying habits. Other friendship killers, nagging, can be a real friendship killer. Looking down on one another, right? Disrespecting one another. How you think in your heart comes out in what you say, in how you say it, and what you think in your heart becomes sometimes a friendship killer. Because in your heart, you don't really love this person unconditionally that you're married to. You're critical. You're negative. You're always disappointed. These things can be friendship killers. And so what we want is that when you get home from work, I don't know how many people are work from home or whatever, but when you get home from work, when you see your spouse again, our prayer, and we pray for every one of you couples, okay, every week, and many times a week actually. But our prayer is that when you see each other again, there is joy, right? That you feel at home in one another's arms, in one another's company. You love to be together at home. Let's talk about getting to the core. Okay. How do you think about your spouse? How do you feel about your spouse? And how do you make them feel? There are a lot of things that go unsaid in marriages. And what I want to challenge us all to do, what I want to encourage us all to do, is to think in your core the way you want your spouse to hear it coming out of your mouth. Because they will. You just don't know that they will. You think you're not saying it. You think you're not saying something discouraging, but if you're thinking something discouraging, then it will come out in various ways. So one of the things that we really want to encourage you is to think about your spouse in a way that they would just love to know. And that you, as a result, you feel about your spouse the way that just melts their heart. And that you make them feel appropriately in accordance with that. So getting to the core, really getting, and we're going to talk about this more throughout this devotional. The next thing I want to get at is teamwork and shared priorities about what's important. And this is just another way of saying your ideals about marriage and love. Okay, so in other words, different people have different ideals about marriage than the teamwork ideal. Right? That we're a team, and what matters is the success of the team. It doesn't matter if I succeed if she doesn't succeed. And it doesn't matter if she succeeds if I don't succeed. What matters is that her success is our success. That my success is our success. That her strength is our strength. That her weakness is our weakness. And I care about it as I care about my own weaknesses. That my strengths are our strengths. That my weaknesses are our weaknesses. And that she cares about addressing those weaknesses and helping me and accommodating those weaknesses the same way that she cares about her own weaknesses. So what we care about is the team. What we care about is the unit. God has made us one. We're learning to live as one. We're learning to think as one. We're learning to feel as one. We're learning to prioritize the unit. So when Susan is sad, right, I don't want us to be sad. I come to her rescue. If I'm sad, if I'm feeling something, Susan does not want me to feel something that's negative. She wants to come to my rescue. Because our pain, one of our pain is our pain. And we are a team, and the teamwork is what matters. The success of the team is what matters. So we don't spend time blaming each other, criticizing each other, nagging one another. We don't like to be nagged. So we spend time helping one another to be successful. So this whole ideal about marriage, right? It's not, and you know what? We'll get to later slides that talk about this more. But the ideal about marriage is not the guy's in charge, the woman follows, and therefore the guy has to tell the woman what to do and make it all happen. And your success is when the woman obeys. Okay, so now some of those words are important biblical words, and they're important biblical concepts. But I think you get the approach that I'm saying. That's not the objective, right? And we'll talk about how does God do it, right? How does God do it when He wants to help us grow? He doesn't get down on us. How does Jesus do it? He doesn't get down on us. He, in fact, comes to our aid. But then there's this whole idea about love. You know what? I've said enough there for the moment. The point is that if you grow in these two areas, like a lot of the rest is just your working out your patterns of interaction. It's like, how do you work together? Remember that middle layer, it's all about partnership. It's figuring out how do we partner successfully. But your friendship has to be strong in order for all those partnership things to work. And oh, by the way, if I take a look at the words down that describe this bottom layer, right? How do I describe friendship in deeply spiritual terms, right? Selfless love, security, encouragement, companionship, common outlook. And I could throw other words like esteem and value and respect and so forth in there. Let's move along. This slide, I just copied it from last week. We talked about these things as important, these things in the friendship layer as being really important preconditions for really effective communication. That is, do you feel loved? Do you feel respected? Do you feel treasured? Do you feel honored? Do you feel admired? Do you feel valued? Do you feel esteemed? Do you feel understood? Do you feel trusted? Those are good words, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, if you felt that way, like Susan not only loves me because she has to, she actually admires me. She actually esteems me. And that's meaningful to me. That's really powerful to me. Or do you feel judged, dismissed, belittled, ignored? I could come up with other words. Okay? So I just revisit that because we're talking about something very similar here. Okay, so here's a question. So think about this question before you jump to the verses. Okay. All right? Is it possible to think differently about your spouse without them changing? Okay, that's a rhetorical question. It's food for thought.
Yeah.
Because, and we talked, I think the first time, just about the first session, about the importance of beginning with myself, right? In your marriage and growing in your marriage, it always begins with you. It always begins with you. Matthew 7, Jesus says, take the log out of your own eye before you worry about the speck in your brother's eye. So the point is here that if we're going to get down to the core and think differently about one another, here are two powerful verses. Okay, let's dig into them. Philippians chapter 4. And this is like the positive thinking verse in the New Testament. But let's read it. He says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And then I think the next verse is, and the God of peace will be with you, or something like that. I may be mixing up my verses. But anyway, the point is, so here's something, and we talked about the glass half full last week as well. So there's overlap week to week. I hope you don't mind. Here's a question. Is there anything excellent or praiseworthy in your spouse?
So many things.
What's that?
So many things.
So many things. So many things. And are those the things that are nearest and dearest to your heart? And are those the things which come out of your mouth?
No, if I'm honest, probably not all the time.
Okay.
I need to think about those things.
Love the candidate.
That's more often.
And in fact, one of the things that we're going to talk about here is reassuring one another. Let them come out of your mouth. You think, of course, I think all these wonderful things about how excellent or praiseworthy my wife is or my husband is. I just don't say it that much.
Right.
Okay, so you found an item. You found something to work on. You found something to grow in. So the fact is that we tend to dwell on certain things in our heart and in our mind about our spouse. And sometimes those can be negative things instead of positive things. And so what's really important is to spend time, right, with yourself, with God, doing the work, trying to figure out how do I think incredibly positive things about my spouse? Because as you think, that's how you feel. And you'll believe it or not, I mean, they don't need to change a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't need to. And you can begin thinking differently about them and feeling differently about them. So sometimes I call this the expulsion of mental monsters. That sometimes I've got complaints about my wife and I just dwell on them. And you know what happens? I end up then feeling bad. I end up feeling bad about my wife. And you know what's going to happen is I'm going to then say things which have an edge. And then she's going to feel that I'm not going to make her feel good. So it's always the case that we need to be able to think differently about our spouse with what they've given us to work with. Okay, we married them, and they're God's children, and there should be plenty of things that are excellent or praiseworthy about them. How about over in Ephesians 5? Of course, Ephesians 5 is the classic, marriage scripture in the New Testament. So I'm just going to read it here. And this isn't the whole section. This is just the latter section. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Now, wait, do you guys know who the church is? It's you. It's you and me and us. And if you know anything about you, you know you're a little bit messed up. And in fact,
A little bit.
particularly in comparison to Jesus. Okay, in particular, in comparison to Jesus, you're a little bit messed up. And he's super patient with us, super merciful. So Christ gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a sort of a basket case, kind of a derelict, kind of messed up, with a few redeeming qualities. No, obviously not. The way that Jesus looks at us, and us individually and collectively as the church, is he looks at us as a radiant church. He looks at us without stain. He looks at us without wrinkle. He looks at us without any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. This is that team concept again. It's and the other analogy, the other term besides team is body, right? That Jesus has made husband and wife one flesh. He's made us one. He has made us one body. So that husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. And, it's not common that we get mad at parts of our body that mess up. Okay, imagine the proverbial hammer, right? Striking the proverbial nail, and the right hand ends up missing with the proverbial hammer, hits the left hand fingers instead of the nail, and the whole body is on fire, okay, with pain. But there's not an argument between the right hand and the left about who's at fault and who messed up and who shouldn't have been holding the nail like that and who shouldn't have missed. Okay, instead, there is one part of the body coming to the rescue of the other part in order to bring back healing, comfort, and rest. He who loves his wife loves himself. So, when we start to think, I've got problems with this spouse, this wife God gave me. Or I've got problems with this husband God gave me. Well, the scripture says, right, when we love our spouse, we love ourselves. that the future of all good things, of many good things in our lives, it goes right through loving our spouse. If we don't love our spouse, we cut off our nose to spite our face, so to speak. Okay? After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body just as Christ does the church. We are members of his body. Okay. You know what? That title is the same title as the one on the previous slide. But I'm just going to say that, I'm going to read this verse is what I'm going to do. Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 and 2 says, "Since then you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things." So I guess the title really should have been for this, and I was thinking about it, but then I was rushing to get it all done, is that the question is, can we really change what's in our minds? Or are we just being real? Okay? You know, if we were just being real about Christianity, we might have some things to say about God, about how stinking tough this life is. But, and oh, by the way, this verse is not a marriage verse. It's not about marriage. What it is it's a verse about our hearts and our minds and about how we are in control of what's in our minds. We're in control of what's in our hearts. And we can set them on heavenly things. We can set them on noble things that are near to the heart of God. Now let me ask you another question, okay? Is it your job, or in fact, is it your goal to change your spouse? Okay, now I think you know the answer to this question. Okay, I'm trying to, okay. I think you know the answer to this question. It's not my job to change my spouse. Now, hopefully you married one. Hopefully you married someone who loves God. And therefore, they've got an unlimited potential trajectory of where they could go, where they could grow, what they could be. I mean, but it is not our job to change our spouse. Well, what about to influence them for the positive? Yes. Yes. That is an important responsibility that you each have. To influence your spouse for the positive. But it's not your job to change them. How do we go about doing this, influencing them for the positive? Do we go about that by control? Maybe manipulation. Surely that'll work. Am I right? Okay, you know what that does? That may accomplish an outward form, but what it does is it erodes everything in that foundation. And what you want to do is you want to build a relationship which has a great foundation and builds toward the top. How about with service, love, and patience? I think those are the methods of Jesus. That's how actually Jesus, even though he has all authority, and he will actually have to come back and judge us, okay? But the way that he goes about transforming us is a very long-suffering method of patience, of love, and of service. How do I influence them for the positive? Let me just look ahead here because, as usual, I have too many slides. Oh, look, I'm at the end. No, I have two more slides before the end. Okay. As usual, I put too many good thoughts onto the page here. Well, how do I influence them for the positive? And a good question is, well, how does God do it? How does Jesus do it? How does the Holy Spirit do it? Because those guys have authority. And they don't control us. They don't manipulate us. What they do is, and I've got a verse here I'm going to read. And I love this analogy. I love this analogy. And this is also not a marriage verse, but it is a verse about how Christians can influence other Christians for the positive. Okay? In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. And they're kind of divided about whether Paul's really a good guy. Sure, he started the church there in Corinth, but he hasn't been there in a while. And they got this hot new preacher named Apollos, who they're really loving. And Apollos is doing all kinds of good things in Corinth. And Paul's writing this letter, okay? And he says, what after all is Apollos? And what is Paul? Only servants through whom you came to believe, as the Lord has assigned to each his task. I planted the seed. Apollos watered it. But God has been making it grow. And I want you to think about this in terms of how you influence one another in your relationship. That it's not that you are one another's best discipling partner with the responsibility to help each other, to make each other grow and get each other to heaven. You guys, maybe a better analogy is you guys are attentive gardeners. You're watering, you're planting, and God is making things grow. God is making things grow. This is the analogy that Paul even saw in he was an apostle. He had significant authority over the church. But there's another great place in Philemon where he's talking to Philemon. He says, I could command you to do this. You do kind of owe me your very self. But I'm going to appeal to you on the basis of love to do X, Y, and Z, having to do with Onesimus, the former slave. And so Paul and Apollos are planters and waterers, and God makes things grow. And you know what? It's not my job to change Susan. It is my job. And it is my aspiration to be a positive influence on her. And that's going to mean planting and watering, which means love, service, patience,
Right.
A good example, all these things. You do all these things, your spouse will flourish. Your spouse will grow. In 1 Peter 3, verses 1 to 7, this is a passage that's focused for the first 6 verses on the wives. And it addresses wives who have unbelieving husbands. So, you know what? I'm just going to cut this briefer. Let me just say that verse 7 ends up with, husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. So all that stuff about wives being, winning over their husband without words, by the behavior of their lives, by the purity of their hearts, and it's that their beauty doesn't come from their gold and hair and jewelry and stuff. It comes from their purity of their heart. He says, in the same way, husbands, be considerate as you live with your wives. So it is addressing different things for the husband and the wife. Okay, there's no doubt about it. And husbands and wives would do well to take note that husbands and wives are different, and God has different things for them. But there's a certain mutuality, okay? That husbands in the same way as the wives, what's important in the wives is the purity of their hearts, and that they win over their husband without words. Husbands, you also Be considerate as you live with your wives. Treat them with respect, right? As the weaker partner. And we could talk about that, but we won't. And heirs with you, right? There's so much that's in common in God's sight between the husband and the wife. It's not that they're the same. It's not that they're equivalent. It's not they have the same roles, but there's a lot that's similar, okay? Just about having a positive effect on one another. It is not your job to change. You know what? I'm gonna leave this for next week or some future time.
Okay.
But so that's what I'm gonna do. And here's a slide of homework. The homework is always discussion questions. Okay? So this is not homework like you're gonna be tested on it. But it's homework like, are you looking for input? Are you looking for guidance? Then I suggest that you pull this out, more than once in the next 2 weeks, and that you use these discussion questions to talk with your spouse about your friendship, about things that are on your mind and on your heart. So with that, I'm going to stop recording.